I look forward to it. Thank you. Since August, United Way of Siouxland has raised money through its annual campaign called One Story at a Time.
And today, the grand total was revealed, and we were there to capture it. This year, United Way raised $2.97 million. Now, this topped last year's campaign, which raised $2.93 million. That's a $40,000 difference, which means more money impacting more lives in the Siouxland area. Now, with this money, United Way hopes to reach 2,640 children and adults who will receive life-changing mental health and addiction support. Families can have access to quality care with 15 new in-home child care providers and expanded infant care, longer hours, and more preschool spots at 3 local child care centers. 2,660 children will improve literacy skills through their reading, math, or school attendance. That opens doors to a brighter future. And this year's campaign focused on 5 categories: mental health access, adult learners, healthy habits, access to quality childcare, as well as youth.
KTIV's Taylor Deckert shares how these dollars will go back into the community, making an impact one child and one family at a time.
It's just an amazing effort with our community.
With the money it raised, United Way of Siouxland plans to fund 23 different programs like Heartland Counseling.
The partnership funds our adult and youth peer support programs for anybody who doesn't have funding to cover that.
Private health insurance does not cover peer support.
With United Way dollars, we're able to then have individuals who wouldn't be able to be in those positions, or we would have to do it completely for free.
United Way will give Heartland over $100,000 per year for the next 3 years.
So nobody is ever turned away for the programs that we have.
Financial literacy is being addressed in Siouxland through Center for Siouxland, funded by United Way.
We get about 6 to 7% of our annual budget is from United Way, and we use those dollars to fund our credit counseling and housing counseling programs to help educate people.
Providing financial education for free.
I believe very strongly in that it takes a village. That's important. Money is part of the village. People's expertise is part of the village, and it helps when we have informed community members that are able to make empowered decisions, really. And United Way money allows us to be able to do that.
This year's campaign chairs are members of CNOS, leading the 2025-26 United Way of Siouxland campaign. Nolan Lubarski was a campaign co-chair who says he saw the insight that goes into working and funding these local programs.
The whole process that organizations will go through, and the executive leadership and the board of directors at United Way of Siouxland goes through that process, and they make sure that the resources are allocated in a way that actually helps as many people as possible.
Everyone at the event wanted to drive home the point that these dollars stay right here in Siouxland, helping your neighbors, your friends, and community members that need it. In Sioux City, Taylor Deckert, KTIV News 4.
Organizers say these campaign results wouldn't be possible without the people who support the mission of United Way.
And we're learning more tonight about the impact of United Way of Siouxland's Dolly Dash that took place this past weekend. The first Dolly Dash was on Saturday. It happened inside Southern Hills Mall after that expected rain. More than 100 people came out to run or walk during that fundraising event. United Way of Siouxland has been a proud partner of the Dolly Parton Imagination Library for 25 years. And this year it raised a little more than $30,000. So this money will actually go to help kids in Siouxland with literacy skills, parent engagement, and as a prep for kindergarten.
These kids can use all the help that they can get. We know that locally, 30% of local kids who are walking into the doors of a kindergarten classroom are not ready with the early literacy skills that they need. So anything we can do, providing books in the home so families can sit with their kids and read to them, is a huge deal.
And because of the fundraiser, 2,000 kids under the age of 5 can register and receive age-appropriate books each month in the mail. Registration opens on May 1st on the Imagination Library website.